All right, so for this 1 week to go for the eclipse, April 1st, 2024, exciting time in the world, exciting time to be alive and experiencing everything going on. And the topic tonight will be looking at left and right variable through the lens of the tonal binaries. And so this is something that's really explored heavily by Steve Rhodes. And basically, yeah, here, I'll try this. Let's see. Sorry, Zoom was, I had to click something, click through to get, oh, it's a live transcription. Interesting. Okay. Well, in any case, the Steve Rhodes material, I think it's going to be distracting. I'm going to turn this off. But let me see how to do this. Disable.
Hi, Jack.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, I don't know how to do that. I guess we'll just have to put up with it for now. I'll just try not to look at it. But in any case, the Steve Rhodes material is one of the main things he focused on in studying so many different people and just the lives of so many people is what tone they had for their sun, earths, and nodes. And so the tone, and by putting them into binaries, really is a different way of looking at it than variable left or right. But it's similar because the left variable is tones 1, 2, and 3. The right variable is tones 4, 5, and 6. And so when you look at it in binaries, you're just looking at tones 1 and 2, separate from 3 and 4, separate from 5 and 6. And you're kind of just asking what each of these categories has in common. So what I thought would be fun would be to share our body graphs and look at that from that perspective of left versus right, as well as tonal binaries, like compare and contrast. So who would like to go first? Any volunteers? Or maybe Lucita, if you're interested, or Ricky, if either of you. I know that I have Ricky's body graph, so that's convenient. I can pop that up, or
We can
I
do
have-
mine either way.
Okay, I have my own that I can share when it comes to be my turn. Okay,
Okay, well, let me just share Ricky's right here because that's convenient. I have that in my Google Drive. So just give me 1 second. And yeah, and basically I just thought we would do a kind of compare and contrast and try to ask the question of what we know of variable from the materials Ra worked on, where he really developed a lot of observations about the differences between the two and being strategic versus receptive and things like that. Okay, so here we are. This is good. Let me share the screen here. So just a second here. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm getting just a moment. Too many windows open. There we go. It was full screen over here. Sorry, Mom. Are you getting a little sleepy there? Okay, here we go.
Is Ron the tattoo artist?
She does not make tattoos. She is an
wait.
artist. Oh, Vaughn.
Ron, yeah.
Oh, Vaughn.
I know
Vaughn
you were
makes.
talking about the artist who does tattoos a while back. I mean, at the HDHD last time. I was wondering.
He makes art that a lot of people get as tattoos.
Okay.
Right?
I'm not really an artist. I just like to draw and paint.
There you go. There you go.
And artist, if I said I was an artist, that would imply that I make a living out of it.
Yeah, he's saying if you.
I can say, you don't have to tell me what I'm saying. I'm saying that calling yourself an artist means you actually make a living doing that. But that's not my life. It calms me down, it relaxes me, and it pleases others. You know, my life is not as an artist. My life is my life.
Very profound. Very profound. Yeah, so many artists live in their art, but not don't know how to have a life outside of that sometimes. Well, so this So here we are looking at your body graph, Ricky, and I have, I guess, just looking at the tones and the variables. So this is very right variable, and yet the sun Earths are both in the tone 3-4 binary. So that's a really interesting case where, like, if you're only looking at it from the perspective of variable, you're really only going to see the sun Earths, that left and right variable, right? That left variable design and that right variable personality. But if you look at it from the tonal level, you actually see these are both pretty similar. 3 and 4 are right there in the middle, and they have a lot of similarities. Like, for instance, on the personality side, the third tone we call action, and it springs into action. Ra himself had that tone. Well, the fourth tone we call meditation, and it's all about reflection and introspection and turning inward. But both of them require a binary process. The action is resting, and it looks like a very undifferentiated right variable while resting, then springs into what we could call left variable differentiation, which is just a fancy way of saying that all of the intelligence and all of the activity is in the strategic left variable side. So leaping into action is where you see the intelligence shine, right? With the fourth tone that you have, it's opposite. It's that you're out there in the world, taking action in the world, you could say, and then you have to reflect on it and meditate on it. And that's where the real gift of the cognitive intelligence is that introspective, sort of meditative, ruminating, kind of philosophical. It's almost like they say to have good feng shui, you should have it be like this kind of stumbling, flowing qi. You don't want a lot of straight lines and so on. Well, the straight lines are very left variable, very like linear, directed. This right variable process of the fourth tone is ruminating and reflecting and pondering, and sort of, it's a very different underlying fuel for that motivation. So if we had a first color investigator, that would be like a Columbo kind of right variable, like ruminating, chin scratching. Oh, but could it be this? What about that? As opposed to a real shark-like, focused, laser-like sort of smooth operator. But in this case, it's second color, which is the guru. And so what kind of guru? One that gets you to question things and to introspect on things and to reflect and to turn inward. And so this meditation tone, it's still ajna tone. It's still navigating and negotiating the difference between the left and the right. It's like right there on the cusp of saying, like, we're finished, like there's no more juice for the left variable process of continuing activity. Now it's time to stop the activity and actually question, change the question, introspect, reflect. So that's how I personally see the difference in the third and the fourth tone. And it's interesting you have that third tone on the design side, so that even though it is left variable, there will be times on the design side also, even though it's not called action, there's a similar sort of action thing there. It's outer vision. And so on the design side, you can really see that this is the sense that was the mastery of the physical world and the supremacy of the left variable being, that the left variable reached its culmination and its finality in outer vision as the supreme sense. And it was in the turning away from the outer world, and basically even like quantum physics and the discovery of the invisible world and so on. In fact, our Buckminster Fuller has a whole narrative about how the great pirates of the world were eventually defeated by the world becoming invisible. And it's really this narrative of like the outer vision finally reaching its age where it's no longer the way to dominate the material plane, that actually the invisible world of ones and zeros, of global markets, of all these different things that are really ephemeral are actually this new world that we live in, and that change actually happened in maybe the late 1800s, early 1900s, things like that, with the beginning of all the radio waves and television waves and cell phone and all of it. The whole invisible world, the becoming invisible of the world, really it's a narrative of the move from left to right variable. And then also on the nodes, which the traditional interpretation of the nodes, I guess, from Ra would be that this has to do with how you see and how you are in your environment, the design external, how you kind of interface or connect to your environment. So on the personality side, we have the sixth tone, and so that would really be this peripheral, almost. I would say this is seeing with acceptance, seeing with surrender. It's basically the traditional sort of the way Ra would approach it is that this has to do with how you see. And then on the design side, it's really your environment and how you connect to your environment. Now, what Steve Rhodes has found is that the nodes can also serve to be something that we strive to emulate and strive to be more like, and qualities that we enjoy in others, and we may even encourage in others. So from that perspective, this is on the design side, striving to be more in that third and fourth tonal binary of basically more, reflecting and more intelligent, really. You can see that it's the connection to the ajna. I mean, there's intelligence in all of the tones, but it's almost tone 1 and 2 are physical intelligence, tones 3 and 4 are mental intelligence, and tones 5 and 6 are emotional intelligence. So this is saying that there's a lot of ajna intelligence and a lot of interfacing with the world and being naturally in a simpatico kind of connection, like your nodes are naturally pointing at people, at other people who have this same binaries. And then on the person, right?
Yeah, but in that position, for the perspective, the view, it's on the solar plexus side, both sixth color and sixth tone. So it's not so much
Yeah.
the
Oh,
fourth.
yeah, I was talking on the design, on the environment. You're absolutely right. And on so there's 'cause there's 3 ajna binaries, and then the only thing we'd see that's not an ajna binary is the solar plexus binary. So the 3 ajna binaries really. Hey, just a second here. There's gonna have to be a little moment, a little interruption here. Okay. All right, so yeah, but you're absolutely right, which is that personality, which is an interesting question. Is this being drawn, I mean, on the one hand, the traditional perspective would be that this is just design, that you're designed to see peripherally without focusing. So kind of in a way, almost like a lackadaisical way of like letting the emergent properties occur rather than sort of staying focused and vigilantly keeping that like awareness in a kind of pattern matching way of left variable. We have a new guest here. So if you're going to join, we have to adjust the camera. So just a moment here. So we have a new guest, Sonia Brislin. Let me just adjust the camera a little bit. Yeah, no, it's okay. I'll just put it back here, I guess, or this should work. Can you see everybody? Yeah. There we go. Okay, it'll be just a second here. Yeah, but so it's an interesting question. So then from Steve Rhodes' perspective, it would be yeah.
Can I interrupt and ask a
Please,
question?
yeah.
See, when you say Rob was talking about the nodes are what you see, the personality nodes, right?
Yeah. And kind of the way you see, the way you're designed to, yeah.
Is it better, like, I mean, a word like perceive, is that what he was getting after, do you think?
Well, he does talk a lot about seeing, and it is a mystical seeing in the same way that, like, in a psychedelic experience, you might notice that you can see your peripheral. Please don't whisper during this. You guys are already interrupting a lot. So, and then you can already see with your peripheral vision so much more, like you might notice that the actual seeing of what you're witnessing or observing in your actual visual field. Now, of course, there are people that are visually impaired. They won't be able to see anything. So what are their nodes? I mean, right? How is that working? And there's a lot of questions really about how much of it is related to anything in the visual field versus just what you're noticing about any information coming in whatsoever. I would say it's probably the latter, that all the information as it's coming in, there is either a left variable continual splenic binary monitoring of it, or there's a left or right variable periodic review of it, right, which is the third and fourth tone, or there's a purely right variable process, which is sort of a holistic experiential thing that takes in the entirety of it all at once without any discrimination as to differentiating between good and bad. Because one of the fundamental ways I look at the left variable is that in a classroom, these are the students, which is a lot of people who will just be on their computer, on their phone, writing, not even paying attention to the class until something interesting comes along that they are meant to, that basically matches their current area of interest that they're tracking. They're almost tracking a certain list of things, and it's like the short list of things that the left variable is tracking. That's what they're learning, and those are just things that they track. And then they lean in and they start to notice, and they go, "Oh, I know what you're talking about," and they start to connect it to all the things they already know. And I mean, not to say the right variable doesn't do this, because I live with a quad right who's always connecting to an existing knowledge base. It's more that the left variable, the way Ra described it is that you can really tell when they recognize something because they immediately react through becoming more engaged or the pattern match clicking. And that click and the point and getting to the point of it and what is the point and the clicking and all this stuff is like very left variable, where the right variable will actually kind of go on an experiential ride where they might not have a point, or they might just see where it goes, like without trying to find the moral of the story or the conclusion of it, or it's much more open-ended, experiential, kind of exploratory. I actually see film as almost a right variable, emergence as an art form of just, not all films, of course, some aren't going to be that way, but films where you just let yourself go into an experience and you can't really, I'm left variable, so I'll kind of like zone out in the movie and then start paying attention again when it's interesting again. But for the right variable, what Rob was saying is he would lecture to them and he had no idea if they were paying attention or not, because they had the exact same stillness and the exact same blank expression and the exact same kind of lack of click. The click isn't happening. There's no click to happen. Like it's just sinking in. It's just pebbles going deep into a pond. And somewhere that brain system, and not in the frontal cortex, but in the back, deep gray matter is storing, at least if it's a right variable. In this case, it's, I guess, left variable. It's arguably a left variable brain system. But Rob would always say, because he would talk about the quad rights and this kind of emerging intelligence, that these are the people that would maintain the information of the internet after the internet goes away, because they would have this ability to store such vast amounts of information in exchange for not being able to retrieve it and having no access to it whatsoever. And other people could remind them of it or pull it out of them. That was their only way to get it. So it's a really interesting perspective from Ra there. I don't know that that's been tested so much, or that people, so.
I wanted to say something, Ricky. It's meant to be a very personal view, and the other term Ra uses about it is perspective. So even if a person is blind, they can have a particular perspective on life, and it would be to see how the data or the evidence or whatever the input is affecting you personally.
That's a really good point. Yeah, that's a great point. That sixth color is not meant to see the power structures exploiting the others and all the political machinations and any of it. It's also maybe in a way the personal is to see how you can't really compare it. So someone else might say, every time you go to lunch with your friend, you pay for it. That friend's taking advantage of you, and you say, well, I don't see it that way at all. I have a personal connection to this person. I can't compare it to anybody else. I'm happy to pay. You know what I mean? You're not even keeping track of who pays for lunch, right? In that way. So, kind of interesting to look at the personal as basically what is detached from. It's kind of the anti-perspective. Now, the interesting thing that Steve Rhodes adds to color here is that the sixth color is fundamentally optimistic, and it's a funny idea. Because if the sixth color is meant to take in the facts objectively and to be a very clear sort of factual way to take in the world, then isn't that wouldn't you think that's realistic? But actually it's optimistic, because when you take in things objectively, what you're really saying is it doesn't really matter. In the grand scheme of things, we can just be objective, and from an objective perspective, it's not really important because everything is for the greater good. And it's funny because the fifth and sixth color, just like the fifth and sixth line, the fifth and sixth tone, they're very experiential. you'll see this is the experiential binary. The fifth and sixth tone are the solar plexus binary. So the experiential is ultimately the optimistic perspective because it says the experience was the point. Even if you die at the end, it's still for the greater good because you got to live. You got to have the experience. So there's something deeply connected to the experiential as well. And I think that's kind of why Ra was saying when he would teach, he only taught one purely right variable class. And I don't know if it was only right variable on the personality or if he required personality and design sun earth to be right variable or what the restrictions were. But he taught a class to the right variables, people out there, and he said that it was like teaching to the ocean. He had no idea what they understood or not, right? It was completely blank and kind of implacable. And I guess that's part of right variable cognition is the experiential thing. It's implacable because the experience isn't over yet. It's meant to just take in the entirety of the experience, not to pick it apart piece by piece, moment by moment, but to be fully absorbed in the experience so that the reflections that emerge later are more full as opposed to the left variable kind of trying to continually say, and the moral of that is, or the pattern there is, or here's what we can repeat from that. It's like the left variable is kind of constantly extracting out of the experience. And what it's extracting is the pattern, or what it's extracting is some punctuation mark that puts a box around certain things and says, okay, well, that was that. Now let's go to the next thing. But the right variable is really staying with it and really maintaining the sort of, there's no real plot. Yeah, point.
Hey, what are those whiskers coming out of the nose of the face on that body graph?
There's whiskers?
The 3 lines on the side? Does that mean they're like a cat?
I don't see the 3 lines. It must just be an artifact of the television. But
It could be.
yeah. Von's looking at it from an angle. All right. Well, Sonia, we're going to look at Lasita's. I'd love to look at your body graph. If you're interested, would you be? Yeah. Do you? Well, let's do Lasita's first, and then while we're doing that, we'll be entering in your info here because this is, or you can text it to me here. Then I'll.
However you would like to do it.
If you can text it to me, yeah, that'd be perfect.
Text you my body graph?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Take a picture of it and send it?
Sure, however it works. Okay. All right, so Lucita, can I grant you permission to share your screen? Would that be the most convenient? And let me
Yeah, because I just tried.
yeah, I have to do it. Let me see.
Was that Africa you just showed?
No, that was the Texas Eclipse event.
Oh,
So
okay.
the eclipse is 1 week away for those who are able to experience that.
This place I never heard of, Burnett.
Let's see.
Texas.
Yeah, it's in Burnett.
Never
Well, there's an event in Burnett, Texas. But
It's probably a pretty cool town. You can get your boat shoot there.
all right, if you want to try sharing it now, Lucita.
Whoa.
Here's one.
All right. Okay, let me move something out of the way. Perfect. So,
So all my tonal positions are 3s and 4s. So
yeah.
it's all Ajna focus.
Well, and this would be, so, I mean, I would say it's too early for me in my understanding of the original research of Steve Rhodes to say conclusively what he's discovered in the tonal binaries, but I'm satisfied that there is something to it. So I do think if we become familiar enough with recognizing the characteristics of the tonal binaries, that's a wonderful tool for birth time rectification that can reinforce your birth time, particularly for the sun earths. The nodes, the tones move much slower, and so that's not as helpful. But this idea would be that even though we see a combination of left and right variable, this is the PRL DLR, actually what we're seeing is, in another sense, all 3 and 4, we're seeing all Ajna binary. And so, I mean, it is, uniform in that way, even though it looks like such a different variable. And it's interesting because you can get a lot of variables like this, like for instance, not only PLR, DRL, but also the opposite, the exact opposite. The PLR, so the PRLs and the PLRs, and the same for the design side. So because you can just switch those tones, right? And then you also have the tone 4/4 and the tone 3/3. So you have a lot of combinations of variable that it's almost like a secret new category that's worth looking into. The people that are right there on the cusp of navigating the difference between the left and the right variable, and who are kind of both experiencing the personal value of the left variable action, being able to leap into action. Now that is the personality side keynote. On the design side, we call it outer vision. So you really would have the benefit of that outer vision on the design side being the intelligence, the natural intelligence. And funny enough, that outer vision is a mental intelligence. So it's not, we hear this and we immediately think of the physical, of the sense of the eye. But again, it could be somebody who's visually impaired. Their outer vision, it's harder to imagine that because usually it is something as just as simple as looking at it. But really we can see it as the equivalent of the action tone on the personality side, but now here over on the design. That is just a brain system that actually can leap into action and can solve hard problems, complex problems very quickly, and not just a brain system, but even connecting to the body. This is the design crystal, which sort of orchestrates all of the design crystals. And so the way I think of it is that tone is, as we know, the frequency inside the crystal. Well, it's not just the frequency inside the prime design crystal that's in the ajna center. It's also the frequency inside every cell in your body, because we know every single cell has a crystal. So it really is like this design side is really your whole body almost has these. Every cell has a crystal that has a sort of hologram of the totality in it, kind of like a Princess Leia, hologram or something. And that's why I kind of imagine when somebody is really having that tonal frequency move so cleanly through them, that the intelligence is expressed through the entire body and through every movement of the body. It's not just expressed one way or another. But it's interesting that it's like, what it's saying here is that really tones 3 and 4 are the fully, because they're the ajna binary, it's the most intelligent in the mental plane. What Steve Rhodes found is that these quad respect people, as he would call them, because he calls the ajna tones respect, that these quad respect people are often actors. And so it's interesting to see acting as a way of using your body and your mind, speaking and acting and moving in a way that expresses intelligence. And so the intelligence, it's like they're doing it intelligently. Like in some ways, bad acting is just unintelligent acting. It's more intelligent to do it a different way that might translate better or right? So effective communication, whether on the design or the personality side, is one of the main concerns of the third and fourth tone. And I guess we can see how the third tone was really the ultimate domination of the material plane by the left variable, which was really mind over matter, the domination of the ajna, finally, its supremacy over the splenic binary, tones 1 and 2. And that was sort of you can almost say historically, like the time of Napoleon, and then post-Napoleon and in the 1800s and beyond, we've entered this sort of right variable era where it's been moving from the ajna. And I should say that Napoleon is the ultimate culmination of thousands of years of the rise of supremacy of the ajna, which really probably began 10,000 years before, and that all the major breakthroughs of different, from the Egyptian pharaohs to all the different cultures, were sort of the battle of the ajna versus the spleen, which is to say the battle of
written language really came into
the development of written language. Good point. Yeah. So there is this whole historical movement from spleen to ajna, and then we know that the right variable only emerged since 1781. So this has been an extremely recent thing to have this right variable consciousness, and that ajna binary is right there to negotiate it, to still kind of say we're going to be right variable, we're basically going to stop the constant activity of the left variable, and we're going to stop trying to find the point and stop searching and stop looking for the pattern and all that stuff, and we're just going to reflect and ruminate and meditate and turn inward. That's that first step. We're stopping action. It's like even that's a binary, from action to meditation. That tells the story, right? That tells the story of we're going to stop the activity in the outer world, and then we're going to turn towards the new emergence of right variable consciousness, which can only occur experientially. And that is the fifth and sixth tone. And so those fifth and sixth tone processes being about the experiential. And what it means to have emotional intelligence, I guess, which it's funny. So for Steve Rhodes, the fifth and sixth tone are hedonistic. So I guess it's saying that to be emotionally intelligent is to understand the value of hedonism. For instance, Vaughn has a fifth or sixth tone on the design side, and he's emotionally intelligent enough that earlier when we had a little argument in the kitchen, people were arguing, Vaughn said, you know, milkshakes are half off at the store. And it's like, that's such a right variable solution of like, let's go have some experiential thing. Yeah, eating, and especially something.
Half price at Sonic on April Fool's Day.
On April Fool's Day, it's half price at Sonic.
What the hell, you know, who cares about it? I mean,
yeah, who cares about who's right or wrong when you have a milkshake? And so this is sort of the wisdom of the right variable,
Why argue when you can enjoy
emotional.
something else?
Yeah, it's the emotional intelligence.
I don't trust anyone who doesn't like milkshakes. You can't trust them.
Okay. Well, so this is so interesting. Now, I would love to hear your thoughts on this, Lisita, if you have anything to share about if you connect to it at all. Now, Steve Rhodes also has no third or fourth tones. So the way he describes third and fourth tone, we would expect to be highly biased. Biased as somebody who has no affinity, no empathy for it, no understanding of it, although also perhaps uniquely situated to see it without any flattery, I guess, right?
More objective.
Yeah, maybe objective. It's like more objective in one way and more subjective in a different way. But anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts on any of this, Lisita, if you have anything to share.
Well, there is some dispute about my time because in England they don't write down the time of birth. And I think that I can digest food better if I close my eyes. So there is some chance that on the unconscious sun and earth, it is first color, fourth tone, but still it would be within that Ajna binary, but that would change the tone on the motivation side, on the personality side to the fifth tone. If the
So that would be an interesting question.
That this isn't correct. Yes.
Well, I love this as a practical real life use of tone for birth time rectification, because you can reflect on your own as to, and perhaps you already have, the descriptions of the differences in the fourth and fifth tone, both from Ra as well as the binaries as he describes them, the difference between being part of the cyclical versus, well, there's the concentrated, there's the periodic, and there's the cyclical. So moving from the periodic binary to the cyclic binary. But you can also reflect from the Steve Rhodes perspective, are you put in a better mood having a meeting of the minds where you feel deeply understood and you have that sort of, like, I even think of the respect tone as enjoying making people laugh or enjoying making them smile, kind of enjoying the actual human connection of respect, mutual respect, but also ajna, mutual communion, mutual connection. I don't know what else to call it, like the connection of minds or something like that. Moving from that to using your mind in a way that feels really good to use it. I mean, what's the way that feels good to use the mind? Thinking, it's a good question. What is a fifth or sixth tone mind? How is it really designed to operate? And I think that is an open question of using your mind, I guess, in a way that resists anything that would stress it out too much, or that would be a really uncomfortable or difficult way to use it, maybe. Like You don't see a lot of fifth and sixth tone. At least what Steve Rhodes found was they're not in highly competitive Formula One racer, athletic, right, kind of positions, right? You might find them in other areas where they're using their mind in a more enjoyable way. So again, having this sort of pleasure-seeking mind that doesn't exactly enjoy being admired or respected either. It's wanting to use the mind in a way that's really for yourself. That's something interesting, is that you would think that it's more, I mean, I guess it is associated to the collective, but it is an interesting, I don't know how far we can go with the connections to tribal versus collective or individual.
Well, I should let somebody else get a chance, but I think that's very interesting. I think I use my mental exploration for my own benefit. That I'm day and night, I'm studying Enneagrams now, and I'm still not sure which number is absolutely accurate for me.
Well,
It's-
but I shouldn't say also that the respect type wouldn't be self-interested in that way either, because I guess one of the points, well, yeah, it's still inconclusive to me. We still need to continue understanding them better, the difference between so-called respect versus feeling in the binary. But I could see that being fascinated by systems and understanding themselves, even if it is self-absorbed. I mean, the interesting point from Ra is that lines 1 and 2 are tribal, 3 and 4 are individual, and 5 and 6 are collective. In some sense they are. And so we can't necessarily extend this fully from line to tone, but there is something of that where you see the security concerns of even tone 1 and 2, security and basically how things could change, the uncertainty, all of this question of physical danger, that is somewhat of a tribal concern. And then we can see the third and fourth, the Ajna binary, they are more individual, they are mutative, they are where things are changing, they're alchemical. And then the fifth and sixth is kind of collective and impersonal. It just wants to have the experience, share the experience, but it is a little more, it's like this right variable thing is a different way of connecting for sure. I mean, we've seen the complete change of all of the institutions and all of the sort of quote unquote normal left variable ways of being have kind of radically changed. And so there is a new paradigm that is emerging in that regard. But yeah, really interesting just to see all of this and really enjoyable.
I think some of that change is actually expressing more of the respect for the emotional intelligence of people. We see that happening more and more in our collective society, where people are recognizing other people's emotions and feelings on a deeper level in all aspects of life than we have just 20 years ago. And I think we can see that, especially since COVID.
Yeah, right. It's changed so radically. I mean, obviously, like going back to 1970s and kind of burgeoning awareness of healing modalities and things like that, and Chiron and this sort of, but then even just in the last few years, really rapidly changed. Well, let's take a look at your body graph. Now, can you text it to me? And you did? Okay. Yeah, then this, I'll share it.
The data also, so if you want to put it in
No, I'll just share it here. So you're gonna have to make me the host, though, Lisita, if that is convenient. You can.
Could you tell me how to do that?
I think you just click on the ... next to my name, or next to the image.
You had to make me the host so that I could share.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I didn't have to. That's just the way that I knew that was quick and easy. But sorry, but then it makes it not that easy for you. So it would just be the.
So I don't know how to change it back.
I think it's just a ... right? When you kind of mouse over the picture of us, right next to where it says mute, it goes ... and then somewhere in that. But if it doesn't work that way, I could also send you the image. Or...
I don't know what to do. Sorry.
That's okay. Well, that's no problem. Well, we can just talk about it here, and we'll just verbally describe it anyway. That's actually totally fine, because we can. Yeah, exactly. We can just look at it here, and then so let me.
And you don't believe you can share your screen?
Yeah, it's okay though. It doesn't really. It's not so necessary. All we really want to look at are the tones, at least for the purposes of here. And so,
And they're color coordinated for you there.
yeah, and so Sonia is PRRDLL, and Sonia has the fifth tone on the personality Sun Earth, and the third tone on the design.
No, flip it. I'm 3-5.
Tones.
Personality.
Tones.
Oh, the tones. Okay, yeah.
Tones, yeah. Yep, so the fifth tone on the personality side and the third tone on the design side. And so the first kind of observation here, I guess, is just,
And
The-
Jonah, I made you
Yeah.
the host. I worked out.
oh, wonderful. Oh, well, then I'll just share this with everyone. Okay, yeah, perfect. Let me just do that for a moment then. Thank you.
Good job, Lucy.
Vaughn says, good job.
What I had to do was I had to go to the list of participants, and then under more, I could make you the host again.
Okay, good to know. And I'm sure there's a way to let screen sharing without changing the host anyway, but that was just the way I figured out how to do it. Okay, so I'm going to share this is Sonia, and wow, very cool, colorful design. Yeah, so I guess the first thing is just looking at the personality line. This is that first line there, or not first line, but the personality row, I should say, the top row, and the top right in that column. Fifth tone, and then also the node's fifth tone. So this is like, I guess that you're not only, I mean, this is fully right variable. So in some ways, here's the interesting thing is, you might not notice if you don't look at the tones, but there are people that are quad right, but they only have third and fourth tones. They might be much more similar to you, Lucita, than someone who actually has the feeling tones. That actually may be a more significant difference. It's going to be interesting to see in our studies and just as we know people and as we look at different body graphs, really tracking that fifth tone. And then because the view, that perspective also is fifth tone, that is seeing in a way that ultimately will result in judgments emerging, but it's not seeing in a way that's like a critical security guard step by step. It's more seeing experientially and holistically and idiosyncratically. That's something that Ross says a lot about the right variable, is that it's not storing information in a way of rote memorization or repetition, or it's not storing it to be easily retrieved with an optimized way of kind of being able to fetch it because it's saved the pattern. It's not doing any of that. It's saving the essence, and the essence is different from the pattern. The essence is something that has to be, you have to have the full experience first, and then you reflect back on the experience and you kind of get the essence out of that reflection.
Yes.
It's not a step-by-step thing where you can take the pattern as you go. The left variable is much more as you go. Like, okay, what's the pattern so far? Okay, that's a new pattern. Okay, let's compare this pattern to what we expected. The right variable is much more like kind of loaded later. Like it has a disadvantage earlier. The disadvantage is it has to have had all the experience. So it's the slow cognition that emerges after everything has happened, not the immediate, instantaneous, splenic binary or the ajna, which sort of leaps into action or reflects. So that's a different way of also seeing the three intelligences: the splenic intelligence that's always on, always vigilant, security guard; the ajna intelligence that's kind of in a binary; and then the solar plexus intelligence that has to have the experience first and then extract things from that. And it really does point to just three of the worlds that we operate in: the physical, mental, and emotional. Now for the nodes, there's a first tone on the design side and a fifth tone on the personality side. Oh yeah, I guess we're doing columns more than rows, but yeah, it's interesting because this is really consciously, theoretically being drawn to feeling people, but unconsciously success people. And it's so funny, if we do take it literally though, that these are the kind of people we like, it's more like your personality is drawn to very pleasant, maybe underachieving personalities that are not as threatening. But then on the design side, splenic. They have that killer instinct, that drive, and there is something about like being able to put up with or so.
Can't tolerate people like that.
So it's an interesting idea of just that the nodal design is kind of what you're, you know, how you're designed to be able to handle people like that, handling very splenic people. And then on the design sun earth, that third tone, as we've already looked at, that's the outer vision. The culmination of the left variable is sort of its final last hurrah, its final great creation, the ultimate supreme kind of dominator of the world through their own ability to apply their intelligence and see things nobody else sees, which is also metaphorical for just like leaping into action and using their intelligence to kind of like, this would be like pitting all of the different warlords, you know, against each other. So there's all this infighting, and then you end up taking over. But this is really the era that it kind of emerged in the era where 2/3 of the tones were splenic. So 2/3 of the people out there are motivated by physical fights for power over limited resources, and they're sort of using power and might makes right of physicality. And it is physical intelligence still. It's not that it's unintelligent. There could be great physical intelligence. I mean, probably when you look at the Mongol horde, or, you know, if you look at Genghis Khan or something, this is probably an example of great tone 1 or 2 intelligence.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then there were tone 3 people who came along and figured out how to outsmart everyone else. And this is what Bucky Fuller, this is who he calls the great pirates, because they were able to use sea trade and sea travel to sort of have a global perspective, the first global citizens that were then able to play different markets against each other. And you have the Dutch, the East India Trading Company, and all the colonial forces and things like that. And it's really ugly because it's still a fight over resources. It's just a fight of using the mind to scheme up ways of defeating, all of the people who had more physical strength, perhaps. So that this is just really our inherited history, but in the last few hundred years, we've been in a very different project, the project of the right variable, which is kind of like right brain even. And we can see that you're participating in that project, and that you have a fully personality side is fully engaged.
Definitely first, yeah.
But you know, your design side still needs to like have the strategic fix. Like I would wonder if your personality might be bored by chess, but your design might really like it, or
Incredibly good at
Sudoku.
chess.
Right, you might just have a
I
natural.
actually win everyone I play because I just naturally understand 5 moves ahead on the board.
Well, it might be really good to exercise the design side, because, you know, what I've noticed is 2 things. When the personality is left variable, which is what James Alexander has, his personality works his brain system very hard, demands so much from it. His design side is right variable, so it's the exact opposite configuration of yours.
Yeah, I can see that.
In your case, your design side might be like, bring me the Sudoku, bring me the challenges. And your personality might be like, I'm going to the beach. Your design's like, no, I need Sudoku, I need challenge. Because there is something about what's going to put you in a good mood, at least according to Steve Rhodes. This is never the way that Ra describes tone ever. I mean, he described tone as really your intelligence. But I think it makes sense that we'd be put in a good mood by using our natural gifted intelligence. And when we don't get to use our intelligence, we just feel like we're sitting around like a rock, and it doesn't.
You do have to be mentally stimulated.
So but everyone has different kinds of intelligence. So if your intelligence is very physically oriented, that's going to be very splenic intelligence. And so someone like me, who has tone 2 on the design side, I really need to be able to use that killer instinct in a competitive way, whether it's playing basketball or whether it's...
It was like doing yoga with you the other day.
Yeah. Yeah, I am a very competitive... I do competitive yoga, exactly. I'm not a right variable person. If I'm not competing against somebody else, it's against myself. But I like to play really competitive games and things like that. It's like exercising that part of my cognition puts me in a great mood. At least if I win. If you win. If I don't win, I'm not in a good mood. But hey, if my intelligence is really firing, then I probably will win a lot.
I do like to play games. Well, I have 28. It's pretty active in my design, even though it's in an undefined center. My ascendant sits there.
Yeah, and it raises a question of if somebody has maybe, she mentions K28, which is the gate
I
of the
love
game
to play
player.
games.
Yeah, but then you see somebody might be quad right or they might be quad left. I mean, there's all different configurations that have that gate. And so then you start to notice the difference between mechanically how that gate operates versus the awareness
Well,
that
gate
that's
is
at the
a
tonal level.
projector
Yeah.
at night through that whole channel.
So that's a very important gate for you.
It,
that
it
gate
is,
28,
yeah, because it's really is programming me a lot through that whole
Yeah,
channel
she's
at
saying in
night.
her sleep design has the full 2838.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Well, you can struggle to solve problems in your sleep, right? Things like
It's
that.
better than doing it during the day.
Well, I guess so. I guess so. Okay. Well,
I
yeah.
actually
So
often do, I think. I actually, if I'm struggling with it or if I'm having a decision to make, I often will just take a nap. And then I actually will wake up and it just flows naturally for me that whatever the solution that fixes, it will just come out in my natural flow throughout the rest of the day or within the next day or so.
yeah. So and I guess you have a mix. This is the first one we've seen that's a combination of all three binaries. So it's you yourself. I mean, the Sun Earths. You have, of course, two of the binaries because you can't have all three represented in those two placements. But then in the design nodes being drawn to the success people. So that's an interesting one. I'll share Von Paul's. Can I share yours, Von? Would that be all right? Is that okay? I'm gonna do it. Is that okay?
It's public knowledge.
It's public knowledge, Von says. Okay, interesting. I didn't know it was public, but let me see. So okay, 1 second here. I'll just find it.
Yeah, you can go to the library and look it up on the computers.
Oh, he's saying, yeah, you can look up people's birth information on
you know
computers.
what I'm saying, John?
Yeah, they
Why
can
do
hear you.
you just keep telling them?
Well,
what
because
to
if you
say?
want to talk, I need to move the mic a little bit closer to really.
Oh.
It's like off.
I'm terribly misquoted.
I mean, it's a pretty good microphone. It's probably been picking it up both ways, but okay. Well, we are gifted with a very precise birth time for Von Paul, which is great. So we don't have any question about that. We have it from a birth certificate, and let me share this right here. Okay, screenshot.
I've never seen this. I don't even know what it means, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I've been telling him about human
Never seen
design.
your chart before?
Well, I'll just
Should
show
I
you this one.
stutter?
Okay,
No, but I just wanted
hey, guys,
to
can
make
you
sure
can you keep the talking? If you want to comment, I'll bring the microphone over there. It just keeps it a little bit less
I'll just
chaotic.
whisper some-
Okay, so let me. This is not the easiest body graph to read, but this is the one that I happen to have it already added on. And what the percentages here are just showing when it would change. So the interesting thing is that Von, actually, we do have a big question. Well, I'm going to assume because it's 5% into tone 1 that with our exact birth time of 5:22 a.m. that he is in fact tone 1 here. And also from knowing him, we've kind of cross-checked this. So I think this is actually accurate. But it is kind of a question because, you know, that's the very, very beginning of color 5. So for Von's case, he has a personality that is very success-driven. My joke with Von is that he likes to get away with things. Like you like to kind of get one over. It's like using your mind in a way to lead to your own personal success or the success of others.
Jeez, who wouldn't? My God. Why would I demean myself or like, you know what I mean?
Sure. Why would you work harder than you need to, or something like that? But the funny thing,
harder than I need to. I always do that. I always try to give more than I should.
well, what I've noticed with Von is that even if he gets something for free, it's less fun for him than if he can kind of pull one over on someone. So, like if I give you mezcal, and then, I mean, it's a bit of a joke too, but I'd give mezcal and I'd turn around and then Von would say, oh, I spilled it, and I would pour him more mezcal. And he would say, sucker, got him, you know, kind of got me, like he got me to give him more mezcal.
Is
But
that what my graph fucking says?
That is kind of what it says. It says that
Okay,
you're
good.
using your mind to be successful, to gain material advantage, and to find leverage in situations that you can use.
Like Mr. Burns.
Like Mr. Burns from The Simpsons, maybe. I mean, yeah, maybe he's a success mind. Maybe that's a caricature of a success mind. Someone who just cares about material. But see, it's not really telling you what you actually care about. It's only telling you how your awareness is designed to have natural intelligence, that you're naturally gifted at using your mind to compete, that others might not be able to compete with their minds. Like you could actually maybe even go on a game show or something like that and have this competitive.
This is a game show.
This is a game show?
Yeah,
Okay,
you
wonderful.
talk like a game show host.
Okay, well, we do have the microphone
Very
here.
sedate, game show host. It's all right. This is kind of a game.
I guess so. I mean, the game of life.
Yeah.
So the design side, though, what this is saying is that you're unconscious and theoretically maybe things you use your body for, like just really the more physical side of you is actually feeling oriented and would actually only be put in a good mood when you physically feel good. That if you physically don't feel bad, no matter how much positive mental attitude you have or anything else, it's not going to put you in a good mood. So to be in a good mood, you'd be having to use your mind to gain some sort of success.
What about my
Yeah.
numbers? Give me some numbers. Everybody else has numbers.
Well, these are numbers. I
Come on,
mean,
give me
these
some
are.
numbers. Come on, I want
The-
to be able to say, well, I'm at 28, 68,
Well,
34,
there's also
82.
that
There are so many numbers on the screen right now. Yeah, you see all the numbers on the screen right now, but
I
numbers.
got all those numbers.
The numbers we're talking about are the tones, and the tones really refer to how your intelligence works and where you're naturally gifted. So your mind is kind of naturally gifted at competing, whereas on the design side, you're really going to be put in a good mood by a nice meal, a nice fire with the snow outside. I mean, nice experiential things, and
Nice.
well, comfort. I mean, it's you do have a hedonistic side that, here's the funny thing, your personality is completely utilitarian, but your design is pleasure seeking. So this is what you have to reconcile, because you have a fundamental difference between the personality and the design. It's like your conscious and your unconscious. Your conscious mind is saying, I'm happy to be utilitarian. Your unconscious is saying, I'm happy to have really good food and to have comfortable things and to have a nice, enjoyable time. I really want to enjoy myself. But your mind is saying, your personality is saying, I don't need to enjoy myself. I'm utilitarian. I have a goal. I don't need to feel good. So all I would say is, just from what this shows me, it's important that both of those are taken care of.
Can I have at least, two numbers?
Yeah, well, on the personality side, it's
People
the
tell me
tone
they come
one.
up and say, I'm at 24 to 38, I don't know what to say.
Well, people do say they're like, I'm a 28, 38, or I'm
Can
a...
I
People,
numbers?
yeah, absolutely. You can see that you have the 4816 right there.
48, 16.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm a 48, 16.
When you're talking about magic, that's
Yeah.
from that.
that's a magical channel, Sonia says.
I like that.
Great, so Vaughn's happy. Well, the only other things that we have to say here, I guess, are just on the nodes. The nodes are really the people you're drawn to theoretically. And so the funny thing is, being drawn to tone 4, that would be you yourself might not care what anybody else thinks, but you might really like people who actually do have a bit of a, well, you may tolerate those people.
I may. Is there anything in human design that says you will?
Well, yes, but at this level of analysis, it's really conjectural, because we're at such a level of detail where we're talking about how people's intelligence works, and even possibly what puts them in a good mood, which is such an interesting question. So, you have a comment? Yeah.
We're talking about I will, you will, those things. You're talking more forecasting stuff. not-
Yeah, he's asked. Yeah, right, exactly. Sure, yeah. So, okay, well, let's see if anyone else would like to take a look at their body graphs. Marissa, are you interested in looking at yours? Or I also have my mom, Dreama, here, who's quad left. And that might be.
What's up with that? Come on.
Well, let's look at Remus really quick, and then if Marissa, if you want to, I will.
So much knowledge.
I will share. Well, just a second here. Okay, yours, perfect. Do I have yours, or could you text it to me if that's convenient? I know that I've had it before. I should just have it on file by this point. But let me, if you have my phone number, you can text it to me, or let's see,
4816.
I'll just put my phone number in the chat.
To tell what that.
What do you?
Yeah, I think you do already.
You don't even know?
No.
Give me some good ones.
They're, okay guys.
Oh yeah, we're not allowed to speak.
No, I'm not saying you're not allowed to speak. You can talk all you want. I'm just,
This was,
here, I'm going to show Dreamer's body graph for a minute just so people can, I'm just trying to keep it going. Okay, so let me share Dreamer's for a moment, and then we can look at Marissa's.
dream a little dream.
All right. So here's Dreamer's body graph.
She's a 1-3 and you're a 2-4.
Might be
Yeah.
able to buy some of them.
She's a 1-3 cross of the unexpected, born in Holden, West Virginia, reflector, and yeah, let me just close it.
Reflectors are rare, right, John?
Yes, reflectors are rare. Around 1 in 100 people, and she's quad left, and a combination of tones 1, 2, and 3. So her personality Sun Earth is tone 3, and so that's going to be, that's the only tone 3. The others are all tones 1 and 2. So this is a pretty splenic, survival oriented. So we could say like fundamentally concerned with survival, except for the personality Sun Earth, which has more concern with, interestingly enough, with Ajna, things seem to have something to do with, I mean, I don't want to only say it's connection, because as you pointed out, Lasita, and as Michael has also pointed out, he's not here, he always talks about how 3 and 4, there is an individual quality of being totally content yourself to study or research something, and that's something I definitely know about you, and I also share. I'm tone 3 as well. Mm-hmm. But then there's also, why are we learning all of this? Why are we trying to seek so much understanding? There is a social aspect as well. The social aspect is so we can communicate with others, and there can be a complex around even, I mean, it actually kind of makes sense why you would be concerned, for instance, with if people see you as having grown up in West Virginia, which is a different place, where being as an outsider is sort of a concern with caring how they see you. Like, I don't want them to see me a different way or see them this way or that way. Whereas if you don't have tones 3 or 4, you theoretically might not even think about or even notice how others see you. Mm-hmm. But you're kind of aware of that, how it looks. How would it look to be this way? How would it look to do that? I don't want to do this. That would look like I don't care about that, or that would look. Yeah. So there is a social aspect to it. Kind of like the Ajna Center, where we're seeking understanding, but there's also the fear of being humiliated, which is a social fear, or the fear of being ostracized, or the fear of being not gaining the respect of others, basically being lowered in their eyes. So that's the personality, which is in many ways going to be the most, that's the personality Sun Earth. And then the other placements all being in the splenic binary. Survival oriented, yeah, I guess.
That makes sense, doesn't it?
Well, and also drawn to people who know how to survive.
Conversations we've had.
And also drawn to people who know how to survive, and maybe having a difficult time with more hedonistic pleasure-seeking people, like, where do they get off enjoying their life when the rest of us have such survival concerns and survival needs?
I think that I feel a lot of that projection from other people. Why do you get to enjoy life so much? But it's because of all the 5 stuff that I have going.
Yeah, well,
because I am very hedonistic. Like, if I'm, and not only that, but I'm a pure generator too. So for me, I really am just living my life to enjoy it.
Yeah, you're looking for your satisfaction in life.
Exactly
And
what I'm doing.
it's funny, I never made the connection with sort of the envy some people can have of the 5th line And the fact that what they usually project is that the fifth line is having all these experiences
Yes.
that they're hoarding and they're not giving back enough to others and things like that.
Right.
So it's
I
funny-
get it. Yes, I get it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But it goes back to the experiential too. So funny enough, then you have no right variable placements, and like everyone who's quad left, that means there's no fifth or sixth tone by definition, no fourth, fifth, or sixth tone,
So
because
only
those are.
1, 2, 3.
But the fact that you have no, so you can have only 2 of the 3 binaries and be quad left.
Okay.
So you can, and you are, right? You have splenic binary and you have ajna binary. Now the solar plexus, though, that's the really experiential one that's really motivated by feeling good. And so what's funny is what this basically saying is you're not designed to be put in a good mood when you feel good. You might have the most amazing feeling of eating the most delicious food and going on a hot air balloon ride and having a foot rub, and it's not going to put you in a good mood. No amount of feeling good. Now, of course, this is the research of Steve Rhodes, not of Ra. Ra doesn't really talk about it in those terms. Ra was really studying something different. He was looking at it in terms of cognition, intelligence, natural gifts, things like that. But, or what he would call the cognitive architecture or cognitive underpinning of awareness. So he was looking at it from the perspective of awareness, either the body's awareness or the personality awareness. But that awareness level can also translate, and I think as Steve Rhodes discovered, to what puts you in a good mood, because that naturally incentivizes you to use that awareness. It's like nature isn't going to make you a class A, killer instinct, success-driven person who's really good at competing. Like, because that's the team you're kind of coming in on. Like, well, not even the team. You're not even coming in on the team of competers. You're coming in on the team of your fractal. And to help your fractal, the fractal needs somebody in every role. We need our sharks. We need our quad left, hyper-competitive people on our team. So you're on the team with all of your friends and your fractal family, your soul family. And part of what you're there to do is to not be motivated in any way, shape, or form by what feels good. Not to be motivated by enjoying, not to be motivated by having a good meal. Yeah, you're like, I don't feel good. Doesn't matter, you're still in a good mood. You know?
I have a question. I think and I'm gonna maybe speak on a little bit for you. I hope that's
Yeah, it's okay.
I think perhaps what would the sense of security. So the long term, the foundational type of security, knowing those ones need that. I think it can give, like especially those tones, the third tone, some sense of not I don't know satisfaction is the right word, but contentment that the long term security is there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, they need. Well, some people are really designed to be put in a good mood by being secure.
Yes.
And others
Yes.
can just be kind of wildly insecure and still in a really good mood. And you're like, why are you in a good mood? Because I had a great sandwich. And you're like,
Yes,
how did
I
that
get
sandwich put you in a good mood? Well, I could die tomorrow, or the experience could. I mean, when you really are experiential, you realize that is all you actually get. You don't really get to take anything with you. So all the security in the world
A good example
isn't
is me
gonna-
selling everything I own and just living out of my car recently
And
because
that's-
after the experience.
That's the very right variable way
Yeah.
of living. So yeah, but I think it's just, this is an interesting, like the Steve Rhodes addition or kind of cross section with Ra is kind of nice, because we're like, okay, these are your awareness gifts. That's Ra. The splenic binary is going to be attuned to security and survival.
Yeah.
But then we look at it from the Rhodes perspective. These are what he calls mood setters. And what it's saying is, it's kind of like if you imagine a team. Like say you're getting ready to incarnate and there's a whole team you're going to incarnate on, which is like a whole cluster of 50 people or 100 people or who knows what. And you all have something to do. Well, you're going to have people that are the most far right variable to the far left variable to everything in between, people who are pure feeling and people who are pure success. And really it's like Ross said about the people who are in that quad left and or the kind of the top left quadrant of the variable board, that they're the backbone of the world that keep everything going.
I could
because they're the ones who make sure that the nuclear power plants don't melt down.
Right.
They're the ones that make sure that the planes land. They're the
Right.
one, and so that's
Yeah.
part of what you're here to do. Now they're here to be motivated to be in a really good mood when the plane lands successfully, not when they get a damn sandwich, because they're not gonna care about the plane landing if they're feeling in such a good mood because something else incentivizes them. So it's like we're all kind of built in with different built-in reward mechanisms where you get you get the dopamine hit, you get the you get the chemical cocktail, and that's at a level purely of awareness. Now that also happens mechanically, of course, where the generator gets the feeling of satisfaction or the reflector gets the surprise and so on. But this is just the level of awareness that we're really designed for our awareness to function in a certain way and to have certain responsibilities. And so part of the reason you can worry so much and still be in a good mood, is because you have the tonal architecture to support that. A right variable person who was in that worrying situation would be put in a really bad mood by the worrying, but for you, it's comforting because then you can check that it's actually still sound and solid or something, right? It's kind of a way of continually raising the alert that there could be an insecurity, that there could be uncertainty, that there could be a flaw in the foundation. And it's also, which helps being a first line. So yeah, we can see starting from the tonal level that really your personality is actually less interested in any of that stuff. Your personality is much more interested in the tone 3 thing, which is other people really, and it is other. I mean, I think tones 3 and 4 begin to understand other people, and even if you look at it, like I was saying before, how the tone 3 kind of gains supremacy over all the tone 1 and 2 fighting it out. Well, that's because the tone 3 is aware of all the other people.
We see what's
They're
happening.
aware of all of that. Part of the outer vision is being aware of what others think of you, how others
Yes.
see you. Are they embarrassed about you? Are they proud to be your friend? Do they really like what you're doing? Do they not like it? All of those things. I mean, it's really just it's still not fully in this transpersonal 5th, 6th tone level, I guess you could say, the experiential, but it is nevertheless capable of using the mind to compare self and other. And that's what the mind is all about, is comparison. Yeah. And so it's kind of a step above those. Now, the color 5 there is also kind of in that experiential binary. In human design, we don't usually talk about the binaries at the level of color. They're really reserved for tone. But we could say that is part of the 5th and 6th color pair. We're talking about variable Johnny. Here we have another quad left with similar. Yeah, we can wave. And there's Johnny. Johnny Cruz. Yep, another quad left. So yeah, I mean, the only I guess I don't have much comments to say here other than that 5th color being also somewhat social. Like you are kind of the messenger of your friend group, and so even though the first line isn't notoriously known for being social per se, it is tribal, and that 5th color is kind of the messenger, the town crier of their group. And what are they the town crier about? 3rd tone things, what's going on in the world of how people see each other and all of that. But then everything else from the nodes, like the people you're drawn to the design Sun Earth, are tones 1 and 2, so very survival oriented. So maybe that you're meant to see, right, in a way that's vigilant, not to let up vigilance in the way that you notice things. You kind of stay
I
vigilant.
can, in this,
I'm gonna hand this to you.
I can see that, yeah. Definitely.
Well, let's look at Marissa's, and so we're gonna do Marissa, and then if you want to, Johnny, if you have a minute, we can look at your body.
Sure.
Okay, let's look at Marissa's here. So.
Cheese. Let's get cheese.
Okay. Oh, she probably sent it to me. Okay, I will get this. I'll go over here. Great. Okay, this is taking me a second to type this in, so let me do that. You guys can just talk or hang out for a minute. Let's see if I can take this in.
reflector too?
Yep.
Wow.
Another reflector. So let's see what we have here, and yeah, let's see tones. Yeah, I really need to get the variable to show. It's not showing here, but it's PLLDRR. So it's not showing the arrows yet. I need to get that added. But we can see tone 1 personality and tone 6 on the design. So this is like what Vaughn has in terms of the binaries, where he can be very utilitarian in his personality of what he thinks he likes. Like he'll say, I will just sleep anywhere, very tough, strong-minded. We watched the movie 127 Hours last night. Have you seen that film?
Oh, the dude stuck in the...
Yeah, James Franco. It's a really good film. No spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen it, but it's a guy who gets stuck in a boulder and has to get out in a creative way. And that's definitely somebody who has a personality. I mean, that guy probably has like 3420. Yeah, it'd be cool to look at his design. He's got to have some splenic personality. He's an extremely survival. I mean, he's got to be a survival-oriented person. He's got to have like survival stuff. But basically, that personality. The same thing with Vaughn, where he might not realize how important it is for him to actually do the good feeling things on the body side, because that hedonistic design side can be ignored, and so Vaughn won't necessarily treat himself to that many nice things. He does sometimes, but I was just saying. So we're now looking at a body graph. Do you have any comments, Vaughn? I'm trying to.
I leave room to start talking smack.
I'm not talking bad about you. I'm just saying, comparing your body graph configuration to Marissa, she has the same success tones on the personality side and the feeling tones on the design side. So I was saying that you might have a very utilitarian personality that can put up with a lot, but that actually it's probably beneficial for you to be a little more hedonistic. Give yourself a nice bed, nice clothes, nice things, quote unquote, high quality of life.
When do I do that?
He's saying, when do I do that? He's off screen here. Well, you don't need to do it more. We don't want to tell you need to. You don't need to do anything. But theoretically, that there would be something that would put you in a good mood. But it actually is true. I know that you do have your creature comforts, like good coffee, good shopping.
I really enjoy shopping.
And you do.
And I don't care what it costs. That's what I really enjoy.
No, that's a perfect example, and it's extremely true. Vaughn will spend, he does not look at a price tag. He will get the most luxury, amazing things to have these. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
And I'd love to hear your comments, Marissa, if you have any.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Same, all around.
Yeah, like it is actually really good to just splurge and give your design its pleasure, because it will be put in a good mood by having good food or something. Like if you're actually not feeling good. Now again, this is Steve Rhodes' test, and it needs to be tested. Well, we got to get him out here. We got to invite him to come to Santa Fe, do a talk. He's in London. He's not famous, but he's in London, and he developed his own theories. I'm not talking about him all day. I just want to give him credit because.
No, really, you talk about Steve Rhodes a lot. Who the hell is he anyway?
He's developed his own system he calls Bantu.
His own system.
Which is based on human design. But I'm just trying to kind of reincorporate some of his observations.
Bantu is a tribe in Central America.
Okay, well, he's just observed interesting things in the biographies of people. I would love that. That would be great. Yeah, let's get him on Signpost. Let's give him a
Nice guy.
I imagine so.
You just imagine so?
So you're studying Enneagram, Lasita. This is an Enneagram 8. If you want to see the Enneagram 8, Vaughn is Enneagram 8. It's the challenger.
Times in the last hour, he
Because
says,
he's quoting him or talking about his work, and so he's giving him the.
I'm just trying to kind of give him credit also, because I don't want to give the misinterpretation that human design has a lot to say about this, or that's my observations.
does
It's
he
really.
get residuals?
He does not get residual payment for me mentioning him
Just free
on
marketing
this.
for him right
It's
now.
just, yeah, it's free
Marketing for him.
free marketing. He can.
3 cheers for Steve Rhodes.
3 cheers for Steve. Okay, wonderful. Well, and then I guess, looking at the nodes, I guess maybe not trying to not trying to really change your success tones, because what I'll say is somebody who has respect and success kind of dichotomy. You have it here between the nodes and the sun earth. I have it between my sun earths. But what I would just say about that dichotomy is that you're drawn to people who care what other people think, but you might not necessarily care. So everyone might be mad at Martin Shkreli for like raising the price of, that's kind of a bad example because he's kind of an extreme example, but I mean, it wouldn't be just that, but somebody who's successful, that's okay. It's okay for them to be successful. It doesn't mean that they're going to destroy other people's lives or something like that, but it's okay to be happy and to have those, if that puts you in a good mood. It's okay to be competitive even. And just realizing that that's part of you. For me, the big difference was between my personality and design side. My personality is in the respect binary, so caring what others think. My design side is in the success binary, so it does not care what other people think. So that's a very big difference, right? So it could be just trying to succeed in some competitive way, even succeed for the favor of somebody in a way that offends and hurts others' feelings or something like that even. So there's all sorts of ways it can play out, but just
I can see that.
Just
I
seeing-
played out with yoga the other day between you and
Yeah.
Rachel.
Well, I'm a very competitive person, yeah. So, I mean, and that's anyone who has those success tones. I like to get it out playing games like Sekiro, which is like a very competitive game, or I like doing competitive things. We have game night where we'll play cards. I don't know that game, but there's a lot of games. So the point is, there's things that will kind of give you that exercise. But the feeling tone needs its own exercise. It's exercised by appreciating the finer things and the subtler things in life, And the ajna will also get its exercise by having an in-depth conversation or learning something or just the life of the mind. We're joined by Krista, who also, like Marissa and like Vaughn, has success on the personality side, feeling on the design side. Right? Is that right? Is that a combination? Yeah, so it's the same in all three cases. Yeah. Do you have any observations about that? Anything you want to share?
I would say, I just only kind of caught a tail end, but what I would say was success. I wouldn't say that I per se have to win things, but I don't want to compete if I don't believe you're a competitor. You know what I mean? Like, so if I'm going to play trivia, I'm going to play against the best trivia. If I'm going to do something, I don't want to.
So you're saying if you were in the Wild West and you were a quick draw and you didn't feel that they were even good enough, you would just walk away because they would need to be,
I'm okay losing, but it better be to a competitor.
Sure. And you also won't even bother really bringing your A game unless you're actually playing against somebody who takes it seriously enough to have an A game. That's something I notice about the success tones also. These tones 1 and 2 being like competency driven. I mean, that's part of the competitiveness is I'm competing with myself to just be as competent as I can be and bring the best. So that's an interesting
Competing
way
with
of looking at
myself.
it.
I would say competing with myself is definitely a theme.
Yeah. So, and then I guess on the node side, so here's Vaughn again. Hey. Just let me get around the cord here. So nodes being drawn to respect people, drawn to feeling people.
Well, that sounds a lot better than trying to chip people and trying to get over.
Didn't say trying to get over on them.
You
It's
said
more
those
just
words.
okay. Well, the success tones. Maybe you have a comment on this, Krista. So I said that the success tone. Sometimes Vaughn will feel almost let down if it's too easy for him to get something, and he likes a challenge to sort of like trick his way to getting extra. He likes to just use his mind. I don't know.
Actually, I use magic.
Okay.
Magic?
Magic.
Me too.
I believe in the power of positive intention and prayer and action. I call it intention, IPA. Intention, prayer, action. I see something that may happen, and it's a good thing for me. And it wouldn't interfere with others' lives, and they may be able to appreciate it. Then I pray for that. I give thanks and I pray. and then I take action to accomplish that. And it doesn't require a lot of effort, just requires concentration. For instance, I noticed that my measuring stick, I have a piece of wood that I use to draw circles with. And it gotten wet and become bent. And I thought, oh, I could really use a new measuring stick. Walked around the yard, and in the fireplace or outside, there was a perfect stick, and it was longer, even better. You know, just little things like that. I've been trying to get a pencil sharpener for 2 months, but that's really hard. It's going to take more prayer and possibly a trip to the store. You know?
Well, it's interesting because Vaughn does get it. He does track things very well. Like he tracks patterns of noticing a lot of things. I can see how Vaughn's success tone is like what he's calling intention and prayer, and even called concentration. There is a way of remaining focused on the things that he's tracking, in that there is this sort of not letting go of it in a way that the left variable kind of like sinks its teeth into something and tracks that thing and then just keeps going with that. And the right variable is much more receptive. Well, the right variable is much more receptive to what comes to it, so it's going to be so much.
I'm trying to stay alive until I die.
Survival, very survival oriented. You can see this is very left variable. The tones of the left.
See, I could die tomorrow, so I'm going to enjoy today.
I'm also really trying to stay awake during all this.
I noticed you were dozing off over there before you.
Well, I was meditating.
Okay, just resting those eyes.
Okay.
Jonah, when it comes to success, okay, we're talking about personality success, but what does success look like on the design side?
Looks like this.
Well, your success in the design side, you tell me.
Well,
You have it.
yeah. But it's I feel like design is something I'm less conscious of, right? So that's something I just...
Well, it's, for instance, your white shoelaces. They go with the diamond pendant in your ear.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's design. No one else, I've never seen anyone wearing those kind of shoes with giant white shoelaces. It's actually a real flair. And it really is. It really stands out.
Oh, thanks,
So
Vaughn.
it's good design. Something unique. There's no uniqueness in human design, though. It's all
Well,
prescribed.
that's what human design is all about: differentiation and uniqueness.
Wow.
That's exactly the foundation of it. Is the opposite of what you just
Yeah,
said.
but we don't have the ability to be unique.
Some of us do have the ability.
Okay, well, okay. I'm going to agree to disagree.
Okay, well, yeah, I can find your body graph, Johnny. But he has success. He's quad left.
Quad left, and I'm success on my design side, respect on my personality side. So in both my nodes and my Sun Earth.
So you like other people that are similar to you.
Yes, correct.
Whereas I'm similar to Johnny, but I don't like other people that are like us. I'm like,
Yeah.
I've had enough of this. I like the feeling people, my nodes, and success. So.
Mm-hmm. And so, do we talk much about respect?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a group that already knows all of these, so what we're kind of doing is a cross-section between variable and that. So you being quad left and Dreama being quad left, and what's the difference between those?
Oh.
I mean, just kind of bringing what we know about variable. Like, variable is pattern focused. Like, do you find variable, is there anything in variable that you've noticed that's true for you? Like, you study better when you can kind of, what I noticed as left variable is I tune out and I don't have to, my attention is a limited resource, and then I don't want to pay attention to everything, and then I notice that something matches the pattern and I start to pay attention, but I'm not paying attention until it matches the pattern.
Yeah, I think with my left variable, it's more like I have a pattern, like a template, and then I notice, and I like zone in and out, and like very periodic, and when something lines up with my template in my head, then I I focus in on that,
Yeah, you kind of like, you lean in. You're like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Let me record that. But you're not just recording everything. You're only recording when it clicks.
Yeah, or say like I can predict like like a lot of life is just you predicting what's going to happen in the next moment. You're just using these patterns over and over, and then when there's a break from the pattern, you're like, oh wow, that's like an aha moment. Like, oh, that's interesting. That's not how I predicted. Why wasn't the way I predicted it should have been? And therefore, it's a learning moment, and therefore I'm going to give it more attention. So next time I can then predict that same moment again.
And also noticing that something doesn't fit the pattern. Like there's a point for jazz musicians that if you're playing music at the restaurant, nobody notices until you hit the wrong beat or until you sing a wrong note.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the left variable, which is pattern matching for that, whereas the right variable can be so absorbed or engrossed. Now, right variable people can get checked out too. It's not that they don't check out. I think the way I understand it is more just that it sinks into the right variable and they don't really have direct access to it. So they don't necessarily know what they've retained, and that can be very uncomfortable. We, as predominantly left variable, you're quad left, and Prima's quad left, and just anytime you have more of the left supporting, it's like the comfort of knowing that you have it memorized, rehearsed. You know your lines. You know exactly what happens. You know exactly A, B, C, D, all the way to Z, and nothing is left unknown or mystery or any of it. Now, of course, that's never really true because all of our designs have unconscious parts and have openness where we have unexpected things come in. And
I'd like to just say, when you were talking about how the left is really doing pattern recognition like that, I have kind of a unique perspective with the personality being receptive. I tend to be very receptive to lots of things, and I never feel like I need to memorize things though. Like I have a sense that it's always going to come to me when I need it. And so, like, test-wise and things like that, I'm continually in school because I love the changingness of school. That kind of the new learning of the new things all the time. And so, but I tend to just intuitively understand sometimes the answers rather than having memorized them. I can see how they would, but I strategically need to focus sometimes on like my patterns of how I'm studying and things like that. So I do retain that information, but I don't ever feel like I have to memorize things. And I could see how the difference would be between the left and the right would kind of do that a little differently.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Johnny or I sit around practicing things so much.
No, but just a conversation. You pick out names and just speak from your. I can tell from talking to you.
I do practice. Like a good example would be like learning a language. I can pick up a language incredibly quickly through osmosis, which you might say that sounds like right variable. No, it's not. It's that the left variable. See, there's a real misunderstanding. Everything before 1781 was left variable. The right variable didn't exist at all.
Yeah.
At all. So when people talk about the flow state being right variable, no, there was flow state for thousands of years that's talked about for thousands of years. All the most advanced martial arts in the world were left variable, quad left. All of the most advanced developed art forms in the entire history of the world are quad left. So the right variable is a new intelligence, but it's not someone who can dance really flowy or beautifully or something like that. That's been around for thousands of years. It's more like it's the ability to absorb something in such a deep way that it's still retained even though you yourself don't necessarily know that it's retained. You can kind of know that it's in there somewhere, and then being able, through the right keys, through the right people that can get it, because it's not just going to be anybody, that there's this magic that happens. And so that's kind of the interesting question. It's like an intelligence that's locked away. I almost think of people who have learning disabilities and problems. And again, you can have learning disabilities of any variable, quad left, quad right, any of them. But, things like that where it doesn't seem there's no obvious intelligence at all. There's nothing obvious. And then somehow they unlock that intelligence and it's like, oh my God, like there was a guy who could draw the exact number of windows in a building by memory, and it's like this Rain Man kind of thing where he's like read every single cover of every single book and memorized
Yeah.
instantaneously everything without having to rehearse it.
Yeah.
The left variable is rehearsing it, is practicing it, it's playing the song over and over again. It's running the scene over and over again. He saw it once.
Yeah, see, that's what I feel like. I don't have to practice all the time.
You just see it once, and you're like, oh, I saw it. I don't need to see it again.
That's right.
Yeah, but the thing is, sometimes those gifts can come out, and other times it's like, I mean, in his case, he's amazing at the windows and amazing at things like that, but he might not necessarily know some other interest. It's like these gifts. There's these interesting little niches of right variable gifts. Yeah, I really wish that there was a grant or funding program where we could like do research into people with special needs and learning all sorts of stuff and see who's right variable and who's left variable and see what we discover.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, well, anyone else have any comments on variable, anything at all, anything they'd like to share? Anything interested in?
It's all very interesting to me.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right, well, we have a bunch of doggies here. Lisita says that she can lend you an electric pencil sharpener, Todd. Would an electric one work? He's pretty picky. I don't know.
Well, electrical would imply that I have access to electricity. I want a pencil sharpener that I can use if I'm drawing on the sidewalk somewhere, you know,
I have one
camping
in my
in the
car.
wetlands, just a regular pencil sharpener like that. About that size. But electrical, I like the old-fashioned one that turns and I can control it. Yeah, I'm not really into electrical stuff, but thank you, Lucy.
Well, that was very, very kind and excellent. Well, this has been great seeing everyone. I think we'll wrap up unless anyone has anything else they want to chat about. But
I like this new bot that does all the captioning for you.
That is pretty neat.
Pretty.
yeah,
The what?
it's as we talk in real time. It transcribes.
It transcribes, so it's writing everything down that you speak.
It
Exactly. It.
I'm curious.
tells me a lot.
Speak a little bit about the new mutation of the emotional intelligence system. So we talked a little bit about it changing from this. Can you talk a little bit about how the ESP center is changing and evolving?
Yeah, I mean, the solar plexus is really changing from a motor to an awareness center, and I think if you look at the past, the left variable past, it's pretty clear that the seven-centered being had something like an emotional center. We don't know. It may have been merged with one of the other centers or something, but it was still very emotionally motivated, and so there's so many classic stories of being motivated by, well, all the great, Shakespearean tropes, the great tragedies. And that's really been the hope and pain of the emotional wave. And as we're going through this mutation, we're really going to a post-wave emotional system, which is an awareness system that it's hard to really imagine because we won't really have the same values. When it's a motor, it makes you really angry because you might have possession over something when someone steals your object, right? But the possession of ownership as an emotional reaction to somebody taking something, that might not be there anymore. For us, of course, it's not changing. This would just be for future generations.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting idea that we are really, that so much of our emotional development as as Homo sapiens transitus has been the preparation for when this wave actually stops. And also just getting a handle on it, like such a key to not have reactivity all the time, like handling our own reactivity and learning not to have reactivity, or basically controlling ourselves. That's such a emotional lesson. When people don't have emotional control, this is the lesson of so many people who are in prison. They didn't have emotional control and they committed a murder or something like that, So it's basically hugely important for us right now that we learn collectively how to experience emotions in a non-reactive way.
Without becoming violent?
Yeah, without acting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because action can be a lot of violence, yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. That's my thoughts there. Cool. We got 3 doggos in attendance. That's great. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks Rosita, Ricky, Marissa. Thank you, Krista. Johnny, hanging out some. Thank you, Sonia, who's just in town for this week.
Yes, thank you for welcoming me.
Of course. And thank you, Dreama, my mom. And thank you, Von Paul. Check out Von Paul Artist on Instagram for his work.
Nice to see you.
And we have the doggos, Chase, Sunny, and Kailani. Good dogs here. So wonderful. Okay, well, have a really wonderful evening, everyone. That was a lot
Good
of fun.
night. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. All covered for now.